Let me tell you something about people who stay in unhappy relationships. They are not blind. They are not naive. They are the ones who see everything. The tension, the distance, the way love has quietly transformed into endurance. They can read silence like a language. They notice every sigh, every shift, every word left unsaid, and yet they stay. Not because they don't see the truth, but because the truth feels unbearable to live with. It's easy, isn't it, to tell someone, just leave. It sounds so simple when you're not the one whose heart is entangled in memory. But the psychology of staying isn't about foolishness. It's about attachment, about the invisible psychological threads that bind us to what hurts us long after we've stopped being happy. The mind craves the familiar. Not the fulfilling neuroscience tells us that the brain values familiarity over happiness. Even if something makes us miserable, if it feels predictable, it feels safe. So when you grow up in a home where love and pain coexist, where affection is inconsistent, where your emotional needs are met one day and dismissed the next, your brain begins to associate chaos with connection. You learn to equate anxiety with affection, tension with love, and unpredictability with passion. So when you meet someone later in life who makes you feel that same instability, a strange thing happens. Your nervous system says, I know this feeling. This must be love, and that's how the cycle repeats. Trauma bonding, the addiction to pain. That feels like love. Psychologists call this trauma bonding. It's what happens when love is mixed with fear, when warmth and withdrawal alternate in an unpredictable rhythm. Your brain becomes addicted to the emotional highs and lows, just like an addict chasing their next fix. The fights hurt, but the reconciliations feel euphoric. That contrast, that intensity, creates the illusion of depth. You tell yourself, no one else makes me feel this much. And you're right, because healthy love doesn't feel like adrenaline. It feels like peace. And for someone raised in chaos, peace feels foreign, even frightening. The inner child, still choosing love. When people stay in unhappy relationships, it's often not the adult making the choice. It's the child within them, the child who learned that love has to be earned. That being good means being quiet. That being needed is safer than being free. So when their partner withdraws, the child inside panics, and instead of walking away, they try harder, because leaving feels like failing the only test that ever mattered, being lovable enough to make someone stay. Cognitive dissonance, the mind's greatest trick. Cognitive dissonance sets in. It's the mental conflict of holding two opposing truths. I know this relationship hurts me, and I can't let it go. So the mind creates a compromise. You minimize the pain. You romanticize the past. You say, they're just stressed. They'll change. We used to be happy. Maybe we can get back there. But deep down, you know, that version of love is gone. And still, the mind clings to the illusion, because losing the illusion means facing the emptiness beneath it, the fear beneath it, all. Every unhappy relationship rests on a foundation of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of regret, fear of losing identity, fear that leaving means starting over from nothing. But perhaps the most haunting fear of all is the fear that maybe this is the best it'll ever get. Because when someone has spent their life being disappointed, they stop aiming for happiness. They start settling for less pain. And in that emotional grey zone, you can survive for years, half alive, half asleep, telling yourself you're just being realistic. The lies we tell ourselves. We say things like, all relationships take work. No one's perfect. It's just a rough patch. But often, these aren't reflections of hope. They're defense mechanisms against despair. Because if we admit the truth, that we're deeply unhappy, we also have to admit that we've been complicit in our own suffering. And that's a hard truth to face. So instead, we stay. We normalize the ache. We start calling survival commitment, and we wear endurance like a badge of honor. Repetition compulsion. When the past keeps repeating. Sigmund Freud called it repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to repeat old wounds in the hope of rewriting their ending. That's why so many people find themselves in the same type of relationship with different faces. It's not bad luck. It's the psyche's attempt at redemption. Your mind keeps picking familiar pain because it's still trying to master it, still hoping that this time you'll finally be enough for it to stay gentle. Identity fusion. When we erases I. After years together, your identity starts to fuse with the relationship. Your partner's moods become your moods. Their happiness becomes your responsibility. Their silence becomes your punishment. And somewhere in that fusion, you disappear. Psychologist Harriet Lerner wrote that losing yourself in a relationship is not love, it's abandonment. But it's hard to see that when the lines blur so slowly. You forget what it feels like to belong to yourself. And that's why leaving feels like death, because in a way, it is. The philosophy of staying philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, and for many, that dizziness is unbearable, so they cling to the known pain instead of facing the unknown peace. Because at least the pain comes with structure. At least the pain has rules. At least in the pain, you still know who you are. Freedom, on the other hand, demands that you reinvent yourself, that you face your emptiness, that you ask, what do I want when no one else is telling me who to be? And that question terrifies the people who have spent their lives defining themselves by someone else's love. The hope that keeps them bound. Hope is a double-edged sword. It's what keeps you alive, but it's also what keeps you stuck. You remember the good days, the laughter, the warmth of their hands. You tell yourself, if it happened once, it can happen again. But what you're really holding on to is not the person beside you. It's the memory of who they once were. And sometimes the person you're in love with exists only in memory. The slow death of the self. An unhappy relationship doesn't break you all at once. It erodes you, slowly, silently, until one day you realize you've been shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort. You've stopped laughing as loudly. You've stopped dreaming as wildly. You've stopped being yourself, because somewhere along the way, being yourself stopped feeling safe. That's the tragedy of staying. Not that you lose them, but that you lose you, the awakening. But then, one day, something shifts. It's not a fight. It's not a betrayal. It's silence. The kind of silence that feels final. The kind where even hope feels tired. And you realize you've spent years trying to fix something that doesn't even want to be repaired. You look around at the life you built and realize you've been surviving, not living. That's when you finally understand. Peace is not the same as loneliness, and love without peace is just prolonged suffering. The healing. Leaving an unhappy relationship isn't about strength, it's about truth. The courage to look yourself in the mirror and whisper, I want more than this. And it hurts. It hurts because love, even when it's dying, still feels sacred. You grieve the memories, the potential, the version of yourself that tried so hard to make it work. But grief is not a sign of failure. It's the price of awakening. Because healing doesn't begin with walking away. It begins with remembering who you were before you forgot yourself for someone else. The return to self. Eventually, you stop longing for what was. You stop checking your phone. You stop replaying the same arguments in your head. And in that quiet space, you meet yourself again. You rediscover your laughter, your hunger for life, your ability